Hey guys, welcome back. As you can tell, I'm out here in the shop. I tend to say that a lot. I should probably put it on a t-shirt. But what you're hearing is rain, and that's kind of wild because we're in the middle of January here in central Ontario, Canada, and it shouldn't rain in January. We should definitely be getting snow. Regardless, it's raining, one of those funny weather events, so I'm out here hiding out. What I wanted to do today was take some of you guys up on what you were asking for, and that was asking for sort of a makeshift tour or a makeshift explanation of my shop here. You've seen me out in it quite a bit. You probably haven't heard me talk all that much about it in detail, and so that's what I'm going to do today. Now, my memory's good but short, so I got myself a little list here. So if you see me going like this, that's exactly what I'm looking at. Now, what I want to talk specifically about is considerations you might want to make if you are building or buying a place with a shop. Now, this building here is a pole barn. You probably know what a pole barn is if you're watching this video. If you don't, it's basically a structure that doesn't require a full foundation, concrete foundation, as a perimeter. It just requires individual posts. Those posts have their own concrete piers, some sort of concrete foundation and footing to support the load. That's what this is. Some other things you might want to think about, and we can probably get right down to the building itself. Think about what roof covering you're going to use. For me, I've got steel roof on here. The reason I have a steel roof is this is a fairly large surface area to cover with asphalt shingles. I don't like shingling, and so my thought was if I had a building that needed shingles, I probably wouldn't want to A, pay for it, meaning pay for someone else to do it, and B, I wouldn't want to do it myself. So the third option was finding a different roofing material. Other things to talk about, what you're going to put down on the floor. If you guys have a look down here, this right here is not concrete. I would like concrete, but my budget does not allow for concrete. If I were to have a building and I had to buy it, getting a concrete floor would probably be pretty high up on my want list. But as an alternative, many pole barns just have some gravel down or some stone. Some just have some dirt down. I'm sort of a mixture between the two. What I've got down here is actually a rubber type flooring over top of sand. This is not ideal, but for a budget conscious person like myself, it is ideal. Reason being is I can sweep the floor like concrete. I can drop stuff and still find it. It doesn't get lost in the dirt or in the stone. And the only downside I can see is it's not flat. As you guys can tell, it's got some waves to it. But I'm going to put out a whole nother video on choices for flooring and what I think about this rubber flooring, so look out for that. Other things to think about when you're looking at building a shop or buying a place that has a shop is the position of electrical outlets. That sort of ties into another point, and that's what you're going to use your shop for. For me, this is sort of a make-all, do-all type of building, and so I need positioning of electrical outlets for woodworking tools. I also need the positioning of electrical outlets for some welding equipment, and I need some basic electrical outlets for plugging in my tractor, plugging in little handheld tools, and things of that nature. When you're looking at the shop, figure out, does it have a 220 power source that you can get, or does it not? Because many woodworking tools, especially higher end woodworking tools, have the need for more than your standard 110 volt plug. Okay, so look for that. Other things to think about when you're looking at electrical in a shop, does it have its own electrical panel? See that one over there? That is key because that allows me to turn off the power to individual circuits in this building if for some reason something needs to be worked on. It also means if I need to add additional circuitry, I can just have it powered from that electrical panel, as opposed to having to, get some power off an existing circuit. I can make a new circuit by going right back to the panel. Now, if we're looking at the positioning of electrical outlets, it's really important to think about where your tabletops are going to be, where the tops of all your workbenches are going to be, because you want the electrical outlets above them. Reason being is, could you imagine trying to reach over every single time all your equipment to plug things in way down below there? That would make life miserable. So if you guys look around here, I've got outlets above where my typical tools would be found. You see an outlet in there? I got an outlet hiding in there, there, over here, and over here. So you guys get the point there. With that in mind, how many outlets you have is probably going to be up to your intended use. For me, I have an outlet every 6 feet. Actually, in some cases, it's probably 5 feet. The reason being is you can never have enough outlets in in a workshop. You will think to yourself, hey, I only got 10 pieces of equipment. I only need 11 outlets, one extra maybe for a handheld tool. But no, that's not the case. If you have 10 pieces of equipment, get way more electrical outlets than you need. You'll definitely thank yourself down the road. Now, getting a good electrician is important for your shop, especially if your shop is being built. The reason being is they will likely have an understanding of what the load requirements are for each piece of equipment. In here, standard circuits would be on a 15 amp breaker. However, my electrician, really good guy, he knew that some of these pieces of equipment may from time to time get into some hard material, hardwood, and want to draw some additional amps. So he bumped up some of my circuits to 20 amp circuits, and that just safeguards me so that I'm not going to potentially trip one of my 15 amp breakers. Now, one last thing I did with my electrical, and you guys might want to talk it over with whoever's building your shop, whoever's wiring it, is the placement of outside outlets. Most of the work takes place inside, and days like today, I certainly don't want to be out there. But check out what I did just in the event that I need power outside. If we come on outside here, this is an outdoor outlet. And I'm getting dripped on, but the reason this is here, if I need to plug in my tractor, so when it gets quite cold out, I need to plug it in for the block heater, I've got an outlet out there, so I don't have to open the doors to my shop, let all the snow and wind and everything in, and I can still heat up that tractor. So I've got an outside outlet on both sides of the shop, because you never know whether I'm plugging in a tractor, or even maybe I'm outside with the power washer and I'm washing something, or maybe I got the buffer and I'm buffing up something like the car out in the yard. I want to have some power available without having to run a huge long extension cord and having to have the door open on the shop. All right, let's shed some light on another issue here. I know, bad joke. If we were to have a look up here behind me, you'll see all the lights in my shop. These lights, how many do I have? I think I got 8 of them up there. Those are fluorescent lights. Those are not ideal, but hey, the price is right. These are very inexpensive and I already own them. So when the electrician did the retrofit on all the electrical, he came in and asked me what lights I wanted. I said, hey, throw up the old ones for now, and down the road if I upgrade, I can do so. But in a shop, you want to have the brightest and the most lights possible. I actually have room for 2 additional sets of fluorescent lights right above my head here. Will I put them in? Well, I might. But for now, these lights are adequate. I've got them in 2 different rows. It gives me full lighting over all the shop. Same thing over here. I've got 3 rows, 1, 2, and 3 of lights. These are really critical because without lights in a shop, you're going to either hurt yourself or ruin something. So get as many lights as you can put in here. And, you know, worst come to worst, if it's too bright, you unscrew one of the light bulbs and it becomes slightly dimmer. But you'll never complain about having too much light in a shop, at least in my experience. Now, you guys just looked up top there at the lights. You notice they're probably pretty far up there. That's for a reason. I have the ceiling height in this building at nearly 12 feet. Reason being is I wanted the ability to bring my tractor in here and still have room to work above it. My tractor is, I think it's just over 8 feet. And so if I get on a ladder and I'm maybe working on something on the roof there, I don't want to have to be scrunching down there, bending my neck in order to do something above it. Other reason I wanted to have a 12-foot ceiling is when I'm moving lumber around. I've had before where I've worked in a low shop, and inevitably what happens, you forget the ceiling is lower, you forget how long the board is, you tilt the board up and boom, you break something on the ceiling like a light. I wanted a tall ceiling so I could avoid both of those 2 things. Now, another reason I wanted a tall ceiling, if you guys look up there, that's a bit of a loft space. That loft space is excellent for storing things that I don't want to keep down here on my shop floor. Those things, yes, I use them, but I don't use them very often. And so instead of me keeping them down here with the tools I'm using day in and day out and sort of getting mixed up, you know, lost and pushed off to the side and cluttered, I put them up top there where they're out of the way. Having a really tall ceiling is critical because that allows you to have a loft in your design. Now, one thing's important in a shop, it's airflow. For me, I had to have some sort of way to move the air in and out because as we're working, you get dust, you get fumes, and you don't want to have that sticking around in the shop. What I have here is I have some perimeter windows. These windows are positioned not only to allow air to come in, but also some natural light. Up on the very ceiling there, I don't know if you guys can see way up there, I have a fairly large fan. The reason that fan's there is it allows for warm air and even moisture, I guess, in that warm air to be circulated around. That fan, when it's running, also draws air in through the windows. And what I do sometimes is keep the front doors open on the shop, and it sort of acts as a cyclone of air to get all of those fumes and dust and whatnot out the door. Now, in addition to that, make sure when you're thinking about ways to keep the air clean, think about dust or filtration systems. If you look up there, that blue box, that filters the air in here. As you can tell right now, that filter is like dark gray. It shouldn't be, but that is dark gray matter, particulate matter that didn't go into my lungs, so that got filtered out. So think about that when you're designing airflow, you're designing a way to get all the dust and fumes out. This building, because I have the windows and I have the huge doors on it, I decided not to go with exhaust fans, but you can put them on either end of the building, have them on an electrical switch, and boom, it pumps all the air outside or sucks all the air in. So think about that if you're thinking about ways to get some good clean air into your building. So guys, if you look around here, this building is not heated. The reason it's not heated is because it's not insulated. The reason it's not insulated is because a building of this size would be very expensive to insulate. If I was going to be out here more, maybe parking my vehicles in that I drive every day, then maybe I'd think about insulating it. But at this point, I don't want to spend the money that it would require to keep this building at a constant temperature, and I don't want to spend the money to insulate it. So that's the short and the easy of why I don't have it insulated. All right, guys, really important consideration here, especially if you're looking to buy a shop or you're going to build one. If you look over my left shoulder here, you have big doors sitting there. Reason being is I'm going to put equipment in there. I'm going to put material in there. I don't always know the perfect size of that equipment, and I want to plan for the future. So get a door that's as big as possible. That's nearly 12 feet high, nearly 12 feet wide. Opens all the way, allowing for me to get equipment in there with room to spare. On my right here, these are fold-out doors. These are going to have room for smaller pieces of equipment to get in and likely not much material. All right, I've talked about nearly everything. Last thing I want to talk about is the positioning of my equipment. I try to keep everything on the perimeter of the building. That way I can still pull things in here like snowmobiles, ATVs, my truck, whatever, tractor, and I can work on it. I don't want to have equipment right smack dab in the middle here because then I can't get anything in the door. So keep your equipment along the perimeter, at least in my experience. That makes life a whole lot easier. Another thing I do here is I don't put anything completely stationary, with the exception of the odd thing like that wood storage rack that I'm not going to move. But most of my equipment is on wheels. Wheels. I've got wheels for this. This is on a moving stand. All these workbenches here, they're all on wheels. The reason I put all that stuff on wheels, in the event that I got to move something, I can still move it without having to go to too much trouble. Now, if I had some options available to me to maybe do things a little bit differently with this shop, I would suggest getting a door on the other end of the shop, or at least the side. That would allow for a complete pull-through of equipment. Although most of my equipment has reverse on it, there are times, like as you can see over here with the snowmobiles, where if I want to use that front snowmobile, I have to back this one out of the way. That isn't always ideal, so if I had the option of doing something a bit different, I might get a side door put in, or even a door at the far end in order to allow for flow-through access. Well guys, as you can see behind me, that's my shop. Those are my considerations. When you guys are out looking to either build or buy a shop, consider them because they may help you down the road. One thing is for certain, and I'm sure all of you with the shop can agree, it sure is nice on days like today where it's pouring rain to have a place to hang out in, work on your stuff, and sort of relax. So guys, with that in mind, you all take care, and I will see you next time.